Dungeons are quite literally the first thing you think of when you hear the words Dungeons and Dragons. I guess you can consider them a staple of the game. Everybody who's played D&D has probably gone through a dungeon crawl before, right? Practically every official adventure module has at least one in there, and it's something that you can take a full session to do, or even multiple to go through a dungeon. Yet, some players can actually dread an upcoming dungeon crawl session. Some dungeon masters can even struggle to write them, especially if you're doing homebrew. And I think I know why. And I also think I know how we can fix that. But first, if you're new here, please allow me to introduce myself. Ahoy! I'm the D&D hunter, definitely not a mind flayer in disguise as a human boy, human man. This mustache is as real as a human's is. I make Dungeons and Dragons videos every single week on tips, tricks, and ideas for your games. Today, we're diving into dungeon ideas that don't all rely on combat in this episode of Scroll of Ideas, a sort of new series of mine where I give you lists of ideas on certain topics around Dungeons and Dragons. So let's just jump into it. Video game dungeons can have a lot of inspiration for creating your D&D dungeons. Skyrim is littered with dungeons with the occasional puzzle room here and there and fairly simple to figure out. Most Legend of Zelda games have really great dungeons with great puzzles inside them. Both of these have one thing though that you can do in Dungeons and Dragons, but it can drag the game down a little bit, and that's constant combat. I will let out the biggest sigh if I hear roll initiative for the fourth time in a session because we entered the fourth room of a dungeon. I get it, dungeons should be hard, they should be full of monsters, they should be risky, but we shouldn't put combat in every single room. Hell, I wouldn't even put it in half the rooms either. I would put them in little to none. Well, not none, I'd still have combat in a dungeon, of course. Skyrim has undead and constructs attacking you in every single room you enter in a dungeon. Zelda has a similar structure where even puzzle rooms will toss in a fire keys to keep you on your toes. But D&D, you should limit this to, say, I would put it at 2 combats per dungeon at the most. That doesn't include the boss room though. You don't have to do this, of course, but this layout is something that I've used and it's worked very, very well. But with 2 combats in this dungeon, what the heck are we going to put in these other rooms? Well, anything really. But let's still make this challenging, of course. The risk of death is not limited to a monster attack. So, here are 10 dungeon room ideas that you can use in your D&D games. Number 1 is theme your dungeon, which I know I just said dungeon rooms, but this isn't a specific room per se, just for number 1. It's more of a general layout for your dungeon. Caverns is one thing, sure, but a dungeon shouldn't be a basic tunnel after tunnel section. Every so often is fine, yes, but players will remember a specifically themed dungeon so much more. A temple to the god Ashar that dives deep underground, a coven's lair hidden behind a waterfall that's completely water themed, or a haunted house that's larger on the inside than what it looks on the outside, filled with creepy old manor portraits. If you make every room feel connected to each other, you're already setting yourself up for a more interesting dungeon that will get your players a lot more engaged in the story behind it. Now let's jump into these dungeon rooms. Well, ideas for them. Number 2 will be the interview. Now, this one isn't my idea. I've done it before, though, and it's made for a lot of fun. I met with a dungeon master friend of mine under the streets of Baldur's Gate, like every dungeon master does. Don't tell the players. He gave me an idea for a more fun, silly-coded campaign that he runs, and I put it in my more, I guess, serious running game. But it works so well, and it was fun for everybody. You enter a room, there's a desk, and a statue of a man with his hand extended in a handshake. A chair is on the opposite side of this desk. A player must volunteer to sit and shake the statue's hand. Once shaken, it activates. The statue sits back and interviews the player, like literally interviews them. The player is magically locked to the chair and must finish the questions in order to unlock the next room. You can make this interview 3 questions on the dungeon, you can question the player's past, and that can also have the statue reveal secret backstory details that the party doesn't know, but they would overhear this. Or you can make this something like a terrible real-life job interview, with questions on whether they can work holidays or if they're okay with no overtime pay and 0 benefits. Make it fun, though. And if the player lies, give them a penalty, something like psychic damage. The statue starts yelling at them and a magical zap happens. Maybe it can punish a different party member that's just sitting there watching. Number 3 is the prisoner who shouldn't be here. This one is a super simple idea, but it can creep out your players and it can add an NPC that can maybe be a long-running character in your campaign, or maybe just a 5-minute character. You enter a room deep in the dungeon, and there's just a person down here, locked in a cell. This isn't a monster, it's not a dead body, it's a normal guy. Their clothes are torn, their eyes are tired, they're clearly scared, and they have no idea how they got here. They genuinely claim that they just woke up inside this dungeon. No tracks, no signs of a struggle either. Nothing. They're just alone, and they swear they've never even heard of this place before. I kind of got this idea from Oblivion. You start off Oblivion waking up in a cell without your memories, not knowing where you are until eventually, you're the chosen one and all that, but you are a character who's woken up in a cell without your memories. That's what this NPC can be. Now you can play this a few different ways. Maybe they are cursed and they are teleported here after some ancient magical failsafe. Maybe something is possessing them and is using them as a spy. Maybe they're a future version of a party member who got trapped in this dungeon years from now. Or maybe they're telling the truth. It's the dungeon itself that pulled them in here because that dungeon is alive and it's tethered to this character for some reason. It's up to you. Let the players question them, let the players free them, and if your party's like most parties, they will likely immediately suspect that this person is not telling the truth. And hey, maybe that is the case. Make this a fun little mystery that's unsettling. Shouldn't be deadly though. This prisoner shouldn't attack anyone. Let's avoid combat here. This person's just confused and they are begging to be taken with the party. Whether you let them live, disappear, explode, evolve into some sort of lycanthrope monster, or become a long-term NPC, it's kind of up to your party here. Number 4 is the room that demands a sacrifice. This room looks harmless at first, just a giant stone door with glowing runes and a little pedestal in front of it. No lock, just an engraving that reads, "A price must be paid." Now, I wouldn't make this a blood sacrifice. I mean, you can, it is very Dungeons and Dragons, but taking a d4 damage to put some blood in something is something that anybody would be willing to do, because it's not that much damage in the end to drop some blood into something. Except for you, level 1 wizard, you're okay, you don't have to do this, it's alright. Make it something that the players would say, uh-oh, oh no, too. Maybe the door wants a memory of a character that they had to sacrifice. Maybe it wants a secret spoken out loud. Maybe it wants a magical item. Or it wants something mechanical. A spell slot, inspiration, a class feature for a day, or even this class feature will disappear for a week. Players will begin to argue about whether who has to pay the cost, or maybe everybody has to pay something here. If the party tries to lie or cheat, have the runes zap them if it's too obvious, with psychic damage or lightning damage, something like that. But if they do have a pretty clever plan on how to cheat their way out of this, I would allow it. Number 5 is the shifting labyrinth. The players enter a hallway or chamber, and after a few steps, the walls start to shift and rotate. They begin to slide into new positions. Mechanically, here's how it works. Every round, or every 30 seconds in real time, if you want to add a bit more chaos, the Dungeon Master will roll a d6. Number 1 to 3, the layout stays the exact same, but if it's number 4, 5, or 6, the room will shift. Doors will move, halls rotate, and the exit teleports to a new wall. To escape, the party must make 3 successful checks before the dungeon realigns itself around them. You can use a survival or investigation check to track movement, DC 15, an arcana check, DC 15, to read the shifting runes, or an athletics check, DC 14, to dash through the moving walls before they close. If you fail this, the walls can close off a section and loop them back or split the party up briefly. This should be tense and fast, and it shouldn't be combat related as well. But players should feel pressured instantly, especially if they're too late to roll or they're too low to roll. The walls can crush them, dealing potentially deadly damage. Number 6 is the Forgotten Workshop. This room is perfect for hinting at what's waiting in the final chamber. The party enters an old workshop, dusty tables, scattered tools, half-finished constructs, or magical experiments lying around. Nothing attacks them here. This should be a quiet room. But it's where the players can learn something important. You can give clues to what the final boss of this dungeon is going to be. You have blueprints of creatures that they'll fight later on. You have sketches of rituals of a villain performing something that can lead into later on bosses in your own campaign. Broken mask, some notes, anything to make them go, uh-oh, that ain't good, again. And of course, you can reward them here. They can find a prototype item that the creator never finished, some sort of mechanical item, like a wand that fires a single empowered spell, a potion that can give them advantage on a saving throw, some sort of charm that weakens constructs, or a key-shaped talisman needed to disable something in the boss room. Nothing overpowered here. This should be something to make the players be a bit more prepared for what's coming. The room should build anticipation and feed them lore here. And it can also be a safe room for a rest. Not a long rest though. I wouldn't put any traps here or anything like that, but the players do decide to rest. I would say if they go over 2 hours of a short rest, someone would enter here. This room should be the place that Frankenstein's monster was built, although it's empty now. Maybe after 2 hours, Frankenstein himself walks in. Like Victor, like the creator of whatever's in this dungeon walks in, and they're like, "Oh no, there's people in my home," and maybe they're strong, and that could be a potential fight that's easily avoided if you don't stay too long. Number 7 is Madness Risk. So in the Rime of the Frostmaiden adventure, there's a very good ice-themed dungeon here. Obviously, it's ice-themed. One room stood out to me where I always look back on it, and I've used it in my own homebrew campaign as well, just this one specific room. This room has a large wall of ice, and inside, through its blurriness, there's a sign of something unworldly here. An alien being frozen, or I guess already frozen. If you stare at it too long, you have to roll a saving throw, otherwise you go mad. This is an excuse to roll on one of D&D's more unique tables that isn't used very often at all, the Madness table. This alien parasite can be locked away in your own dungeon, causing anyone to stare at it to possibly go insane with short-term madness, as they have to roll on this table on, say, a wisdom save, and if it's too low, you're going to go mad, rolling a D100 on this madness table. If your DM is an evil person, you can make this a long-term madness table as well, because that is still another thing in the older Dungeon Master's Guide. It can be really fun. It can make your players a little bit stressed to look at this, but also curious. Is it worth the risk to find out what this alien is? Otherwise, they might go.
What if I'm on the brink of madness?
Number 8 is the Mimic Sanctuary. This room should be chaos in the best possible way. The party steps inside and realizes that everything in this room is a mimic. But not hostile mimics, just wild mimics, living their best possible lives. You can have baby little chest mimics scurrying around, bookshelf mimic napping in the corner, maybe even a giant mother mimic that's just watching the party, like a big weird cat that's like a big treasure chest, but like it's hostile, like it doesn't want to hurt you. None of them attack unless provoked. They're basically, I would make them like animals. Yeah, I actually would make this like animals. So mechanically, you can have your players roll animal handling checks to calm them or befriend a mimic, offering the rations like gold or something shiny, something that a mimic would like to follow them for the rest of the dungeon. Maybe even a mimic can become a pet of yours, or one mimic could give you a reward for taking care of it here. You can have a chest mimic cough out a key or a gem or an old scroll like it was candy years ago, and these players can use this later on in the dungeon to unlock a room. Mimics are often used to be like, ha, surprise, I'm a mimic, and then combat happens, but this should be more of like a, oh, it's like a little mimic colony. It should be fun and cute. Number 9 is the Arcane Pressure Zone. This room, magic can behave weirdly here. Fire spells can freeze, healing backfires and hurts you. Teleportation can send you somewhere else entirely. Basic magic works the opposite of what you expect in this room. I would maybe even shift everyone's spells around just a little bit if you have access to what your players have prepared for this dungeon. Like the spell Inflict Wounds can do radiant damage instead of necrotic damage. Players would have to really adapt on the fly here, using their spells very strategically and being very careful what they're casting. This would also be a room where I would put combat in. Not the final boss or anything, but this can be something like the boss's minions, guards, or just the usual undead if your players are around that level where they're not quite ready for like liches or something like that. Number 10 is the heart of the dungeon. The final room of this dungeon here, the players step inside and feel like the dungeon is more so static. A massive crystal pulses at the center, glowing with strange energy. The walls hum, the air shivers, and every step echoes like a heartbeat of the place itself. This could be a place for the final boss that you pull it out, or if you still want to avoid combat, you don't have to make the final room of a dungeon a boss battle. This can be something where they need to stop what's in here. A giant heart, a Luxon beacon, a giant brain, not necessarily the one that the mind flayers all love. Not that I know anything about that or anything, because I'm a human man and not a mind flayer. But like just something like the heart of this dungeon. And then the players have to decide, should they stabilize this and stop the dungeon from collapsing? Should they destroy it and risk whatever is holding it back? Or should they claim it for its power? But there could be a cost to that. Even if there's no official boss fight in this defending this heart of the dungeon, you can still throw in a few minions or some basic D&D dungeon traps around the edges But this room doesn't have to be about constant combat. It's about choices, it's about the tension and letting players feel the weight of the dungeon's final secret. You could also optionally give a reward or clue here, like an item or knowledge of power that'll carry over to the next arc of your D&D's campaign story. But make them earn it. This heart should feel very unforgettable and very magical, very powerful. Why is it that this is still here if it's so evil? Are the players the first people to encounter this in a long time? Or is this heart being avoided for a reason? Next up on my list is, oh, I guess we're out of time this week. That's all 10. I love Dungeons and Dragons dungeons, and I love making them. I've done so many, and as someone who plays D&D weekly, usually, I try to do a dungeon every 10 sessions or so. They're just so much fun to me, and I've always had players cheer when they discover a dungeon rather than groaning about it, because I make them tie into my world and I make it a lot more fun. It's not constant combat. When the combat does come, the players are already weak from failing at other puzzles along the way. I have a lot more puzzles that I love to talk about here, so if you guys enjoyed this video, I would love to do another dungeon video, just more dungeon room ideas here. And if you like this sort of list style video here, I did one on ideas for traveling, and I did one on ideas for long rests, because you can do a lot of stuff in Dungeons & Dragons that doesn't involve just fighting, or fast traveling, or just skipping to the next day here. That's all for this video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe and everything. Thank you for everything so far. I hit 4,000 subscribers recently, so thank you. I just want to say thank you. Bye-bye.